Well, hello again. Now, as I've said in the previous 2 or 3 videos, the light levels are probably going to go up and down as the sunlight coming in through the window goes up and down and the camera tries to auto-adjust. So if I disappear into silhouette, that's probably advantageous for you. So, is there anything to report this week in the wonderful world of piffle peddling? E.T. piffle peddling. They're coming here, they're crashing here. Crash helmets, everybody. Being reverse engineered. They're being gifted. I've got one in the garage. It was left here by the Palladians only last week. And he said, if you get a chance, Mumbling, put the spanners on this, would you, sometime over the next couple of weeks? Of course, there's nothing inside these things. We know, don't we? You know, Bob Lazar said it's like almost like magic. You know, there's no wires or anything in there because he doesn't have the imagination to make up what might actually be inside an alien spacecraft. Because it's all rubbish. Okay. To the notes. This is just what I've written here. So what do we have this week in the wonderful world of ETs coming here and crashing here, and their technology is being reverse engineered? Our piffle peddling world. Now, of course, I've said it many times before, I'll say it again, ETs aren't going to come here and crash, you know. ETs are not going to come here at all. They're certainly not going to gift us anything. There would be absolutely nothing in it for them to come here. I've heard this week, oh, there's a technology exchange going on between us and ETs. No. If ETs can get here, can fly across the galaxy and get here, any technology any technology that we're going to have will be ancient old rubbish to them. It will be the sort of stuff that wouldn't even be accepted by one of their science museums. So, complete and utter rubbish. There is no technology exchange happening between us and ETs. You know, there's no kind of exchange happening between us and ETs. ETs are not coming here. You know, they're not crashing here. They're not donating technology for us to work on, so that we can, you know, reverse engineer it and then cross the galaxy to their planet and potentially wipe them out. They would have to be the dumbest ETs in the galaxy, if not the universe, to do that. And I'm pretty sure I've said that before as well. It's getting a bit repetitive, isn't it? But yeah, the world of ETs coming here and crashing here is pretty repetitive. They have to keep coming up with stories that will keep people interested, keep spending the money, you know, going to talks, buying DVDs, you know, all this sort of stuff, buying books. They've got to talk it up. Even though there's nothing to it, and they know there's nothing to it. Yeah, put a line through any kind of exchange of technology between us and ETs. Put a line through ETs gifting us any kind of technological advantage. It's just ridiculous. It's ludicrous is a better word, isn't it? So, you know, if we gave them the best technology, aerospace technology we've got, they would laugh and say, you know, our science museum wouldn't even accept this as an exhibit. Ancient rubbish. So, Senator or Congressman, I'm still not sure. I should Google it really and find out what the difference is, if there is any. Eric Burlison tells us none of the first-hand witnesses, the people with personal hands-on experience with recovered ET materials, want to come forward. None of them, not one of them, want to come forward. Now, this may be a surprise to all the gullible fanboys that lap all this rubbish up, but it's certainly no surprise to me. You know, they don't want to come forward and testify under oath, just as I predicted. Just like Kaiser Sose. Come in and testify under oath. You know, we'll get Arrow to check your story out. Arrow checking out the story. Exit stage left event. because they know it's all bullshit. They know they're fake whistleblowers. And good on Mr. Burlison for giving them the opportunity to come and give their testimony under oath in the presence of Arrow to get it investigated and verified. I did see Mr. Burlison say that he may have to subpoena some people, and I think that's long overdue. We are so far put up or shut up time, it's ridiculous. So if you say to somebody, well, this is what I've been told, okay, who told you? Right, go to that person, okay, who told you? And then drill down and drill down and drill down, and there'll be, as Sean Kirkpatrick said, there'll be a core of these science fiction piffle peddlers that have been spreading all this rubbish for decades. Subpoena them. Get them in there and say, okay, everybody's telling us they believe this because they think you're credible and you're telling them. So you tell us, we'll get Arrow to take a look at it, take us and show us where this stuff is. Places, times, dates. You know, it's, I just heard a thump, so the power may have gone off. I hope not, because that will mean I've got a UPS here, uninterrupted power supply, and that alarm might sound. I heard another thump. Did it come back on? Okay, anyway, I digress. If we hear an alarm, we'll know what it is, and I'll go and deal with it. As soon as I press record, something's going to happen. You know, they're going to start work on the house over the road. They're going to, yeah. So, you know, just as I said, these first-hand witnesses will never come and talk, come and give any testimony that they know is going to be investigated, that will be checked out. You know, I actually said that in the last video or the video before. You know, I'm fully expecting this hearing that's been bumped from July, I think it was, to September. You know, with Luna and Burlison and co. I'm fully expecting it to be completely shit-canned, because they're only interested in talking to first-hand witnesses, and there aren't going to be any. They're all going to run a mile rather than give any kind of testimony under oath that can be checked out. Remember, these people can go and talk to Arrow at any time. They don't need a skiff. They can go and talk to Arrow. Arrow encourages people to come and tell their stories without fear or favour. You know, it's like John Kozlowski was telling the story about this police officer, you know, with the big black triangle in front of his patrol car, as big as a car, big as an SUV, hovering in the air, you know. Now, John Kozlowski doesn't poo-poo that story, because he wants people to come and tell Arrow their stories so they can investigate. What John Kozlowski also said is, you know, there's no photographs, there's no video footage, there's zero evidence to investigate. So it remains an unknown. That's not saying John Kozlowski believes it was an alien spacecraft. He's saying it's something he can't explain based on that story. Now, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking to John Kozlowski, and he said, you know, this cop didn't take one photograph, you know. Didn't start his dash cam going or his body cam or anything like that. And I thought, wait a minute, just a cotton picking minute there, Hoss. Aren't police car dash cams and body cams running all the time? Just in case something turns up right in front of them. You know, and just records for X amount of time, then it will record over it again, it will record over it again, just like a flight recorder, you know, data recorder or cockpit voice recorder. So, no photographs, no video footage of that. I think John Kozlowski is just being very kind to the police officer. He can't, of course, say he doesn't believe it, because he doesn't want to put people off going to Arrow and telling their stories. I was going to say giving their testimony, but, you know, telling their stories. But Arrow's in a position, of course, to check out everything. You don't need a skiff to talk to Arrow. And they can look into any program, any compartment, and find out if what the people are telling them is true. Obviously, you can't do that if there's just a guy describing a black pyramid in front of his police car. There's not much you can do with that. You know, it's a low information zone, I think they refer to it as. It's a low information zone testimony. But he can't say he thinks it's rubbish, because it will put people off telling them stuff, and there may be some wheat among the chaff. Personally, I don't think there will be, but you never know. So, you know, I think this hearing's going to be shit-canned. I don't think they're going to find any first-hand witnesses. Now, remember, the first-hand witness definition is people that have had personal physical experience, physical contact, handling recovered extraterrestrial technology or biology. And I don't think there's going to be any, because I don't think ETs are coming here, and I don't think ETs are crashing here. If you've got the technology to fly across the galaxy, you're not going to crash when you get here. And in the unlikely event that you did, if you're in a 30-foot diameter flying saucer, you're going to have come from a mothership that's probably hiding just beyond the geostationary satellites. And they'll be geared up for rescues, you know. They'll just come and recover the equipment and recover the vehicle and their people. They're not going to leave it there for us to analyse. It's just nonsense. Okay, so, just like Kaiser Soze, the people claiming first-hand experience with ET materials and technology and biology have disappeared. They don't want to talk to Mr. Burlison. What a surprise. You know, after Luna went to all that trouble of setting up a skiff, you know, because Elizondo and Grusch, you know, Mellon couldn't wait to tell the Luna and Co. in a skiff everything. They spill the beans. They tell them everything. So Luna, okay, we'll set up a skiff. Arrow will be there, you know, Burlison and Luna will be there. Grusch called in sick. Elizondo called in sick. Mellon called in sick. Not one of them attended that skiff. Now that tells me all I need to know, and it should be telling you all you need to know as well. That should be telling you none of it is real. None of them, they couldn't wait to get this information out there, yet not one of them attended the skiff Luna set up for them. And if they do it again, I'm betting the same thing will happen again. I mean, how dumb would those people have to be to think people aren't going to say, huge red flag. Red flags all over this, you know. There's more red flags all over that skiff than there is in Tiananmen Square. So, you know, it's all rubbish, and they know it's rubbish. You know, if they believed what they were saying, they'd have no trouble going to a skiff. They'd look forward to going to a skiff. They would drag themselves to a skiff. You know, if they were really super sick, they would make it to the skiff. It's all bullshit, isn't it? It's very obviously all bullshit. Yeah. So, insult to the intelligence, calling in sick to Luna's skiff. And I'm sure Luna and Burlison and Co. are not stupid. You know, they're going to realise what's going on. They're going to say, obviously, they didn't turn up, because they know it's rubbish. All of it. You know, Bob Lazar, you know, I've said before, Bob Lazar won't go near Arrow because he knows his testimony will be torn to shreds. They'll be able to look at what was going on in the places that he's claiming he worked at, you know. You know, all they'll find is that he was a radiation monitoring instrument technician for Kurt Meyer at Los Alamos. That's all they're going to find. And remember, Bob Lazar, when he was in court for pandering or whatever it was, gave his profession as a self-employed photographic processor, you know, not a physicist. No one's employed Lazar as a physicist since his claimed stint at S4. He's just worked for himself, selling little bits of nuclear materials and what have you. He has never worked on any interesting physics projects for any of the big companies. You know, any of the big government departments. You know, after the Second World War, the Americans lapped up von Braun and all these other people, you know, that worked for the Nazis. If Lazar was a seriously good physicist, he'd be lapped up, you know, after his claims about S4 and all this sort of stuff, you know. Never happened, because he's not a physicist. It's bullshit. Yeah. So they all know none of their stories are going to stand up to the slightest scrutiny. Lazar and all these other fake whistleblowers, they just know it's bullshit. So Coulthart still hasn't named any of the US senators that know all about the ET crash reverse engineering program. Welcome aboard, Ross. Glad to have you as a subscriber of the channel. He's obviously seen the video I did last week, or the one before, where I said, you know, you'd have to, how dumb would he have to be to do that? Because these senators that he names are not going to know anything about it, because it's not real, it's not happening. You know, the fanboys will say, well, what do you expect them to say? But the senators themselves, of course, will know that Coulthart is full of shit. They're going to say, well, you know, I don't know anything about it. You know anything about it? No, I don't know about it. You know, he's telling the world on News Nation that we know all about it. Put a line through Coulthart, you know. Won't be listening to him again. Zero credibility. So, yeah, no surprise there. Now, would that have dawned on him if he hadn't seen my video? Maybe. I don't know. You know, he doesn't radiate intelligence, does he? Yeah, so... yeah, it's all science fiction rubbish. You know, maybe I'll get in the Guinness Book of World Records, if that's still going, for writing down it's all science fiction rubbish. For the person that's written that down the most ever in say 1 month on the face of the earth. The award goes to Steve Bowman. Science fiction rubbish. So yeah, and it seems that Coulthart and Zabel have parted company. More trouble in paradise. Oh dear. Coulthart is no longer part of the Need to Know podcast with Bryce Zabel. More rubbish, of course. I wonder how Zabel's getting on. Wasn't Zabel going to be presenting a university level course at the Sol Foundation or something like that about all this bloody rubbish? I wonder I wonder if I should enrol if he's actually got this course going. I wonder if I could enrol to Zabel's bullshit ETs coming here, crashing here, and their technologies being reverse engineered course. Yeah, I could probably demonstrate it's all science fiction rubbish pretty quickly if I was sitting in the classroom. It's a bit of a long commute though from where I am to where the piffle peddling happens mainly. You notice it's all in the US. You know, no one else can be bothered with it. So, who will replace Coulthart on the Need to Know podcast? I saw a guy I've never seen before, never heard of, but I saw him being interviewed by. His name's written in here somewhere. And I looked at this interview. Now, this fella calls himself UFOGerb. And he seems to me to be a master of interweaving tenuous connections between defence contractors and government departments in a cloud of alphabet soup. You know, he just loves spraying this alphabet soup out. He loves his acronyms. He talks with authority, spraying out these acronyms. And of course it's all nonsense. It's complete and utter rubbish. He was asked what he thought was his most convincing evidence of ET visiting, and he quoted a couple of stories that he chooses to believe. Didn't provide any tangible evidence. Didn't think he provided any evidence at all from recollection to support ETs coming here. Very enthusiastic though. You've got to take your hat off to him. That's why I think he'd make a good co-host for Bryce Zabel, you know, because he's going to keep the fanboys interested. The fanboys lap up all this stuff, and he's speaking with authority and enthusiasm and spraying acronyms out like confetti. And the fanboys like that, you know. UAPGerb said that this, you know, this alphabet soup agency and this alphabet soup department are all in cahoots. It's all rubbish. He tells us he believes the Roswell story. Well, that is a pretty big red flag, if he's gullible enough to believe that. So he hasn't read or doesn't believe what Mac Brazel, the guy that found the Roswell wreckage, has to say about it. Brazel said he found balsa wood sticks, tin foil, strips of rubber, scotch tape. Can you imagine the ETs crossing the galaxy to pop into a local hardware store to buy some scotch tape to wrap around their spacecraft? And they'd be in serious trouble if they needed scotch tape to hold their interstellar spacecraft together. Oh, and cardboard. There's cardboard as well. Now, does that sound like an alien spacecraft to you? Personally, it doesn't sound like something I would be. I would fancy travelling around the galaxy in. It certainly doesn't sound like an alien spacecraft to me. So I'll leave a link below to Brazel's statement about what he said when he found what he found at Roswell. Remember, it crashed on Brazel's ranch. So is UAPGerb ignoring Brazel's statement deliberately? Because he prefers to believe an alien spacecraft crashed there. The components that Brazel described, strangely enough, are the sort of thing you would find in a Mogul balloon string. And remember that the boss of the Mogul balloon project, string of balloons 600 feet long with instrument packages on them, fell about laughing when he saw the Roswell recovered disc story, because he knew that it was going to be balloon string number 4 that crashed on Brazel's ranch. No alien bodies. Just well, at the time, a secret project, the terrestrial technology. So I'll leave a link to Brazel's statement below. UAPGerb also tells us he thinks Bob Lazar is the real deal. Now, so he's not looked into this at all, has he? This UAPGerb is a fanboy, he loves acronyms, but he's not looking for the facts. You know, if you look into Bob Lazar, you know, you find out, as I said in the previous video, you know, he claims degrees, master's degrees from MIT and Caltech. Neither MIT or Caltech have ever heard of him. He doesn't appear in any of the yearbooks. He can't produce his degree certificates. He can't produce any of his university coursework, and there'll be a fair bit of it. Doing a master's in electrical engineering, physics, even a bachelor's. There'll be plenty of it. He can't produce any of that. He's never worked as a physicist for any other company or government department since his claimed stint at S4. No one's hired him as a whiz-bang physicist. It's almost as though it's all bullshit, really. He was just an instrument technician for Kirk Meyer. No one has come forward to say they remember him in their class at either university. He can't name any of his university lecturers. I'll leave a link to a Dr. Todd Grande video about Bob Lazar. He's looked into his background. He'll be able to give you a bit more detail. And I've also I'll also leave a link to something Eric Davis said about Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar said Eric Davis made up the entire... Eric Davis said Bob Lazar made up the entire Cockamamie story. And I'll leave a link to that below as well, so you can have a look at that. Maybe get yourself a bit of an education, Mr. UAPGerb, instead of spraying out all this bullshit with enthusiasm. You're leading a lot of people down the garden path. Lazar is a very obvious fraud. You know, whatever crashed at Roswell was very obviously not an alien spacecraft. So, yeah, Lazar Elizondo appears to have had his day. No one thinks he's credible anymore. Well, I can't say I'm surprised, you know, with his chandelier photo and his crop circle irrigation photos. And what was the other thing he did? There was something else he did that was not turned out to be a load of rubbish. Yeah, apparently Elizondo, I was watching a video this morning, apparently Elizondo goes after small YouTubers that point out his fake ET spacecraft images and stories. Well, leave a comment below, Louis. Let's have a laugh, shall we? Well, I haven't heard from him. Maybe I'm just too small. This could be. I'll be sure and let you know if I hear from Louis. And don't forget, Louis, I've still got that flying saucer. If you want a new prop, you know, the one with all the flashing LEDs around it. It's just on the floor over there, actually. I'll do you a good price, do you a good deal on it. If you want to make another video. This was recorded out of the window, you know, of the US Embassy in wherever it happens to be. A bit of fishing line, you know, with a dustbin lid with the LEDs around it. Pretty convincing compared to the other stuff you've been putting out there, Louis. Of course, I don't believe Elizondo's claimed remote viewing or Darth Vader-like telekinetic powers. Release mumbling, Elizondo. As you wish. Remote viewing the Darth Vader of Guantanamo Bay. Yeah, right. Then he woke up. This was just after he watched the DVD of The Empire Strikes Back. Even Chris Ramsay from Area 52, I think it is, says Elizondo has said time and time again. Now this is, who is this? This is Chris Ramsay from Area 52. Says Elizondo has said time and time again things that turn out not to be true. Who would have picked that, eh? And he also says, this is the guy from Area 52, Chris Ramsay. Can I even believe a word that comes out of his mouth? Well, I can give you a bit of a heads up there, Mr. Ramsay. If it relates to telekinesis, remote viewing, ET, him knowing anything about secret UFO reverse engineering programs, yeah, no, you can't. It's all bullshit. It's all absolute bloody rubbish. Danny Sheehan is trying to keep this nonsense alive. He was being interviewed. He didn't look very happy, Danny Sheehan, to be honest. He said, it's all real. It's all real. I've been told. People I think are credible. So Danny Sheehan doesn't know. You know, he's choosing to believe something he's been told by others, probably Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff. You know, maybe David Grusch even, you know. And we all know Grusch has got zero credibility. Even Grusch says he's got no personal experience with any of this stuff. He chooses to believe what he's been told, probably by Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff. These are the people that need to be subpoenaed, you know. Get them in there. Get this bloody rubbish over and done with, you know. And as I said, I saw Mr. Burlison saying that they may have to subpoena people, so let's hope they do. Let's get this done and dusted. It's becoming tedious, isn't it? You know, I mean, I'm not even looking forward to making these videos anymore. You know, I used to quite enjoy making a video, but it's just the same old rubbish over and over again. A couple of different people. I'd never heard of this Area 52 guy or UAPGerb. I might copy those in actually. I might do a hashtag to those guys under this video. See if I can wake them up. Danny Sheehan, I've said before, when it comes to this subject, no credibility. Don't waste your don't waste your time with Danny Sheehan or Steve Bassett. It's just rubbish. All these institutes, paradigm institutes, new, older, and different, are all a complete waste of time. As is the Soul Foundation, ISA. There's a few others out there. And yeah, talking about ISA, I saw Beatrice Virarol, whatever her name is, you know, the female astronomer that's claiming UFOs in these photographic plates. She did some, I saw her name with a load of other names on this document relating to UAP research. And one of the names on there was Eamon Ansbro. Now, if she's associating with Eamon Ansbro, I think it's pretty safe to put a line through anything Beatrice has to say. Because Eamon Ansbro, only 2 or 3 years ago, he's a member of ISA, the International Coalition for Extraterrestrial Research, I think that stands for. And he calls himself Dr. Eamon Ansbro. And in the talk, in the list of presenters, it said Dr. Eamon Ansbro, ABD, in brackets after his name. Now, ABD in the world of academia means all but dissertation. That means he doesn't have a PhD. He shouldn't be calling himself doctor. Now, I don't know, this was a few years back, so I don't know whether he's since done his dissertation and is now a PhD. But certainly back then he wasn't. But he was putting himself forward as Dr. Eamon Ansbro. And he also said he'd made a device for communicating with aliens. If you wanted to see it, it'd cost you $100 million. If you actually wanted to go and look at this device, it would cost you $100 million. He actually stood on the podium and said, if you want to see it, it will cost you, I've made this device, it will cost you $100 million if you want to come and see it. And I just fell about laughing. And there was a picture, a still image of this thing, which looked like a few PVC tubes with coils wound around them. Obviously, a couple of people did a little bit more looking into this, and they probably tried talking to aliens with it. I don't know if he made any money out of it, and it failed miserably, because obviously it's going to. I mean, I could wind copper coils around PVC pipes and show you pictures and videos. I could probably produce plasmas and things. You know, it looked really impressive, but I'm not going to be talking to any alien. And then he came out with, it has to be linked to a human's consciousness. So you've got the PVC pipes with the coils in your lap, you know, and you're using telepathy, your consciousness, to reach out and communicate with these aliens. You know, it's just like psionics and C5 and telepathy. It's all bullshit. None of it is real. So if Eamon Ansbro is pushing that kind of rubbish, and his name is appearing along with Beatrice Virarol, I'm sorry if I get that wrong, and a number of others, zero credit. You can't give any credibility to anything Beatrice is saying. You know, she's associating with people like Eamon Ansbro. Just put a line through anything she's got to say. I said before, I'm pretty sure I said in a previous video, it's probably space junk, you know, because there were a number of failed attempts to get spacecraft in orbit before Sputnik was successful. And that may very well be just space junk that she's photographing from these failed attempts. And there were plenty of them. I mean, the first rocket that actually made it into space was a V2 during the Second World War. So, yeah, that's Eamon Ansbro and ISA, chocolates, ISAs. Put a line through it, it's drivel. Obviously, plastic PVC pipes with coils wound around them is a fraud. It's a way of attracting investment money to the research. The fact that it just sits there and does absolutely FA, then you have to get your stooge in there to be pretending to be using the machine to connect to aliens so you can communicate with them. I mean, that is just, you know, that's knowingly leading people down the garden path, probably for money, isn't it? So, a lot of these things are give us your money, we'll push for disclosure. Of course, they can push for disclosure as long as you like. There's nothing to disclose, so they're going to keep taking money forever and ever and ever until they drop off the perch, probably, or people get wise to it and stop putting money in the pot for this nonsense. So even Putoff and Davis recently have been saying they've got no personal experience with this stuff either. They've just been told, and that's because I think they're getting a whiff of being subpoenaed. They need to cover their backsides, their pimply old backsides, because they know they've been bullshitting for so long and it's coming to a head where they're not going to be able to bullshit anymore. So they're stepping back, they're backpedaling. Well, I've been told. Carnell, with massive experience in aerospace, military, and military industrial complex defence contractors. Well, all that experience. It's 100% they're coming here. I've been told by people I consider credible. So he's got no personal experience of any of this stuff with that huge background in the military, aerospace, space command, all these defence contractors that he's worked with, and he has to be told he hasn't seen any of this stuff personally. It would insult the intelligence of a cheese and pickle sandwich, wouldn't it? Okay. Now, I think this is finally, actually. Do we have? Yeah. We've got a flying saucer photograph taken from Gemini 11. Apparently taken by an astronaut on board the spacecraft. Well, I've looked at it. Now, is the astronaut putting this forward as a picture of an alien spacecraft? Do we have the original photographs from that mission? Is it still there? Do we have a frame, a numbered frame number? Now, I've said before, I look at this stuff and I give an opinion. I don't research it. I suspect what it looks like to me, to be perfectly honest, it looks to me a lot like Elizondo's chandelier reflection photograph, because it's curved. Remember, Gemini spacecraft are curved on the inside, and it's got like a little row of illuminated dots along the bottom of it. And those spacecraft, the instrument panels were covered in little light bulbs, So is that just it's got the slight curve because of someone's head's there? There's a reflection on the glass of the inside of the cabin, and some instrument lighting that you can see just across the top of his head. That's probably what it is. I really don't think it's an alien spacecraft. It looks like a typical flying saucer. Flying saucers are a very human construct. Going back to Kenneth Arnold's description of 9 crescent-shaped craft skipping across the sky like saucers skipping across a pond. The press got hold of that. Oh, flying saucers. Right, it's got a ring to it. We'll run with that, Yeah, so I think humans invented flying saucers. Because a flying saucer is not a very practical shape for an interstellar spacecraft. Internal space would be of a premium. Just think about it a bit, It doesn't need to be aerodynamic, does it? If they're using these exotic propulsion methods that people claim, it could be the shape of a brick, but you could bend gravity around it just like it was streamlined, couldn't it? If they had the technology to do all this stuff. It doesn't need to be aerodynamic. 2 tapering discs back to back is not a good shape for internal volume. It's not a practical, you really want as much internal volume as possible for your interstellar spacecraft, because you're going to all sorts of stuff in there. You're going to need a crew in there, and you're going to need, all kinds of bits and bobs. And that shape is just not practical. So, you know, Bob Lazar said, well, you know, when he looked inside one, there was nothing in it. It was just like magic. Nothing was connected to anything else, you know, it was just empty, you know. That's because he doesn't have the imagination to fill in the details of what might be in an alien spacecraft. And of course, you know, as soon as you go in through the door, you're going to be like that. And you're going to be getting more and more and more like that the closer you walk towards the edge. And some of these things are described as being very small. That's probably why the critters have to be small for the science fiction story to stand any chance of working at all. But even for little tiny critters, you know, they're not going to be able to walk very far around the entrance hatch, are they? Because, you know, it's tapering down like that. Not a practical shape for an interstellar spacecraft. So personally, the Gemini 11 thing, no, it's not ET. It's far more likely to be a reflection. Again, you know, has anyone compared the photographs? Because not with the Apollo photographs, every frame is numbered, and you can look at the original photographs. So we got a frame number for that. You know, has anyone looked at the original frame number image? But if it is there, it's going to be. I think it's going to be a reflection on the glass, very very similar to Elizondo's chandelier reflection of a chandelier photograph. I certainly don't think it's an alien spacecraft. They're not going to come all this way and not say hello. And as I've said before, there's going to be absolutely nothing in it for ET to come here. Nothing in it for them. We are not going to be able to teach them anything. They're not going to be remotely interested in technology we may have, because it'd be old hat to them. It's going to be absolutely no reason for them to come here whatsoever. All right. Well, if you've struggled through the video all the way to this point, as usual, many thanks for watching, and maybe I'll catch you again.